Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is a double upload from the incredible mind of horror writer 1717 from over on Reddit, No Sleep. Guys and girls, this author has some fantastic brand new books available to purchase, which I'll leave the link to in the description box below. Of course, as ever though, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. Entitled, Never swerve to miss a deer. You could hit something much worse. Let's get straight into that. It was one of those nights. The fog hovered in the air like a curtain, waiting to rise on a show I would never forget. Being called into work early on 3 hours of sleep was bad enough. Driving through the fog that was so thick you could feel it holding back the car makes for an interesting morning. And maybe listening to Metallica's All Nightmare Long at 3 a.m. wasn't the best choice. And it started with the floating legs. As I drove, I saw a pair of blue jeans standing along the side of the road. Just the legs. It was like someone had stood half a mannequin beside the road to freak people out. And as I came closer, I could see there was a black hoodie on top of them, in a vaguely human form. The head turned towards me, but I could see nothing inside the hood. The chill that went up my spine as my foot went down on the accelerator. I was so freaked out that I never saw the deer running straight towards me. It wasn't until it was right beside my car that I noticed it. It startled me so badly that I swerved to miss it, and ended up on the side of the road I'd never driven on or even seen before. I hadn't gone far before I calmed down and realized I'd made a wrong turn. I stopped in front of a road sign that mesmerized me. It had once been a standard deer crossing sign, the one with the silhouetted buck leaping in the air. However, this one had been modified by a talented artist. The painted additions made the deer enormous, bigger than a moose. It also had a mouthful of shark-like teeth, a spiked tail, and glowing red eyes. The sight of this fanciful creature should have made me laugh, but after the morning I'd already had, it chilled me to the bone. I immediately did a 3-point turn and floored it. I made it maybe 100 yards. My front tire, which wasn't in the greatest shape, gave in to the stress and had a catastrophic blowout. This, plus my speed, sent me careening off the road and into a deep ravine. At least that's where I woke up, in a deep ravine. I willed my blurry eyes to clear and was immediately sorry I had. Every window was shattered. Tree limbs shot this way and that, all through the car's interior. It looked like the love child of an Ent and a Buick. My seatbelt had held me fast, and the deflated airbag laid out before me like a miniature blanket of snow. I leaned forward and was twice rewarded. The first by pain. My chest and arms felt like they were on fire. The second was the realization that I wasn't on the ground. The car creaked and groaned when I moved. I stood straight up, resting precariously on a large tree limb. I couldn't see how far it was to the bottom because of the same fog that got me into this predicament. Okay, this is bad. I can't even hope for help. No one will even see me down here. And to calm me down, I did some physical assessments, starting at the feet. Toes wiggle. Oh, that's good. Right leg bends. Left leg. Oh my god! I'm going to call the feeling like I've been stabbed by 1,000 knives. I'm going to call the feeling like I've been stabbed by 1,000 knives. Bad. I leaned forward just enough to see my leg. My pants, they were covered in blood. I tried to reach the wound but stopped when the branch made a cracking sound. Okay. We'll come back to that. Moving on. My lower abdomen seems okay. My ribs feel like they're at the main course of a barbecue. My arms shoot daggers every time I try to move them. The most disturbing part of all of this is the lack of blood on my shirt. Okay, end assessment. Possible broken leg. Possible broken ribs. Possible internal bleeding. Car destroyed. Hanging precariously in a tree that could give out and send me falling to my death at any minute. Low possibility of rescue due to the early morning hour, fog, and being out of sight of the road. And so, Essentially, I'm dead. And the worst part of all of this was being alone with my thoughts, knowing that death was on its way, and there was nothing that I could do about it. All these thoughts disappeared as a slight breeze made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end, and I heard a low rumble. My eyes slowly turned to face the noise and wondered if I was hallucinating. I saw two huge red orbs coming steadily towards me, out of the fog, and as they approached, I could see they were attached to a monstrosity. The creature stopped right beside the car. The artist on the sign, didn't do it justice. My breathing became rapid and shallow as my heart jackhammered in my chest. A warm liquid ran down my leg that had nothing to do with the car. On its glowing red eyes were the size of basketballs. Its teeth looked like they came straight out of the shark from Jaws, and its claws were as long as hunting knives. I stifled a scream as my injuries were forgotten. The huge red eyes were so close I could feel the warmth coming off of them, and it stared at me. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't think. It ripped the door off the car and inhaled as if sniffing me. Oh my God. 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 It backed out and then grabbed the car and shook it out of the tree until it toppled over onto its roof. God damn! The roof collapsed from the weight and missed crushing my head by mere inches. I nearly lost consciousness from the agonizing pain as I hung upside down from my seatbelt strapped across my broken ribs. The car began to move. Metal protested as it was dragged through the woods. Oh no, he's taking me back to its cave. I tried to reach the seatbelt release, but the pain was too great. I was being dragged helplessly to my death. And for what seemed like an eternity, this ride from hell taught me the meaning of pain. Every bump and jostle was a new lesson. The metal screeched in protest as the car finally stopped. And the creature sniffed me again. Go ahead, eat me, I screamed. I hope I give you indigestion. The red orb stared at me as if sizing me up to see if it would be enough trouble to rip me out of the car. And in desperation, I used the only thing I had available to me. I reached up and painfully pressed on the horn. The creature jumped and screamed a horribly loud cry that defied description. The last thing I remember seeing was it running off into the trees as my mind led me into a blissful unconsciousness. Beep, 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 beep. Alright, I'm up already. I reached for my alarm clock, but it wasn't there. In fact, my bedroom wasn't there either. I woke to incessant beeps pounding my aching head. I looked around the white room at the machines that kept me alive. My eyes settled on the man in a uniform standing at the foot of my bed, staring at me. Good morning, he said. Good morning, I rasped back. My name's Sheriff Seacrest. I realize this isn't the best time, but I need to ask you a few questions about your accident. Okay. From the skid marks on the road, I figured you were doing at least 80 when your tire blew. Any reason you were going that fast? Am I under arrest? The sheriff studied me for a moment. No, you're not under arrest. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. I was scared. I said barely, above a whisper. Scared of what? Whatever was in the fog. So, what was in the fog? And I laid quiet for a long time. I wrestled with the implications of telling someone else what I saw. I wasn't even sure myself. My imagination. The sheriff seemed a little disappointed. So, how did your car get out of the tree? Dragged 100 yards and sat on the side of the road. I don't know, Sheriff. I wish I had the answers for you, but I blacked out when I landed in that tree and I woke up here. That's all you remember? Yes, sir. Was there any wildlife around? What do you mean, wildlife? You know, squirrels, foxes, deer, he said, emphasizing the last word. Nothing that I saw. As I said, I blacked out. He closed his notebook. Thank you for your help. I hope you recover soon. I hope so too. And the sheriff started for the door, stopped and turned back, and looked into my eyes as if he desperately wanted to say something, and then faltered and said, You're very lucky to be alive. I know. I used to drive a plow truck for a living until the unthinkable happened. Let's get straight into that. Well, there's something I need to confess. It's not a pleasant thing. It's not even easy to believe. I'm still not sure I believe it myself. That's why I wrote this letter. I hate snow. You would think that someone who depends on it for his living would at least learn to tolerate it. Not to mention be grateful that it provides for his financial needs. But I despise it. My job itself isn't so bad. I drive a truck with a big slab of metal bolted to the front, which pushes around untold tons of nasty, disgusting frozen water. And plowing through the day isn't nearly as bad as at night. Most nights, I just drive between the lines and hope for the best. This night was not like most nights. Plow on the secondary roads is the worst. Without lines, it's hard to tell where the middle of the road is, much easier to veer off course. I need to be especially careful near the cemetery, just outside of town, since the road splits down the middle. There were already 10 inches on the ground, with another 2 in the forecast. My first pass through was fine, but by the second pass, it was snowing harder, reducing visibility. I didn't see anything jump in front of me, but felt the plow shudder. And I slowed to a stop, turned on my hazard lights, and got out to assess the damage. I grabbed the shovel off of the truck, just in case. The air was still and cold, and thankfully the snow was letting up. I would at least be able to see if the dumb animal was just hurt or needed to be put down. When I turned the corner, I immediately noticed something large and brown buried in the snow that was piled up in front of the plow. Bear. Well, that was my first thought, followed closely by, I hope it's dead. Instinctively, I lifted my shovel in a defensive position and slowly advanced. As I came closer, something struck me as odd. The pelt, it didn't look right. Its hair was too short. In fact, it looked like it had been shaved, except the skin was brown instead of pink. I stepped within a few feet away and prodded it with my shovel, then jumped back, ready to run. It didn't move, so I prodded it again. No movement. And I approached again. This time, I took the edge of my shovel and tried to roll it out of the snow. I wasn't budging, so I dug some snow out from underneath, keeping a wary eye on the brown lump. After a few minutes, I tried to move it again. This time, it rolled easily onto its back. Oh, how I wish I hadn't. Shit! I jumped back and fell on the slippery road, and still backed away as fast as I could. I sat there for what seemed like an eternity, staring at it, mind reeling in shock. How long it took me to come around? I don't know. I stood and forced myself back towards the plow. And fear coursed through me as I approached and looked down at a human hand that was sticking up and out of the snow. I reached down and felt for a pulse. Well, the wrist was cold and I felt no blood pumping through it. Fuck me. Manslaughter, murder, death by plow. These things raced through my mind as I pictured my life as a giant toilet that I had just flushed. I carefully dug out where the head should have been and found him to be a man in his 60s. His face was, well, rather torn up, but I attributed that to being dragged 30 feet by a snowplow. His brown suit was also worse for wear. There was a dent in his forehead that looked like it was the same size as the corner of the plow. Oh, damn it, damn it, damn it. I threw the shovel down and started pacing. What to do? What to do? Thoughts of an early retirement instantly evaporated, replaced by the dread of a big cellmate named Bubba. In my deepest despair, a thought struck me like a lightning bolt. The clarity and simplicity were frightening. I slowly turned and looked away from the road to see the gravestone stretched out before me, and a calm spread over me like a warm blanket as I picked up the shovel, covered the body with fresh snow, and went to find my victim of permanent home. I walked only a few feet when a car pulled up beside the plow truck. A large man in a uniform stepped out and walked over to me. "Evening, Tom." "Evening, Sheriff." "Everything all right?" My mind was racing like a hamster on crack. "Yep, it's just clearing up a little." "What's wrong with the truck?" I hesitated, quickly running through all the things that I could be fixing with a shovel. I had some ice built up in the wheel well. I mentally crossed my fingers, hoping that he wouldn't look in the wheel well, since there wasn't a bit of ice in it or on the ground. "They stuck you with the old beast tonight, huh?" "Yeah, I'm not enough of a suck-up to get the new stuff." "I hear you. Looks like you won't have to worry about it, though." "Why not?" I started to sweat. "The snow stopped." "Oh, yeah." "You okay?" "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" "You're acting odd." "I'm just tired. It's been a long shift." He stared at me, his eyes bore into the back of my skull, and in my mind's eye, I could see him drawing his gun in slow motion, cuffing me and taking me straight to prison. "Well, I hope your shift is over soon. Go home and get some sleep." "That's the plan," I said, smiling. He tipped his hat and started back towards his car. He glanced at the snow in front of the plow and then stopped to take a longer look, and I held my breath. He mumbled something to himself and then walked to his car and left. I collapsed against the truck. He knows. Sweat poured down my face. I have to get rid of the body, but where? I did the first thing that came to my mind. I got in the cab and tipped the back of the truck until the salt was about to overflow. Then I went to the front and dug out the body, carried it back and climbed up into the truck bed with it. I was amazed by the lack of blood around the body, but chalked it up to it being so cold. Once the body was in, I lowered the bed and the soap covered him up. I took the flashlight and walked back to where I first hit him and checked for blood. I didn't see any, but I did see tracks leading up the road. Curiosity compelled me, like some unseen guide, to follow. The tracks led me through the cemetery, past hundreds of headstones. I trudged through nearly foot-deep snow, curious where he had come from. Guilt tugged at me, not knowing if there was a family waiting for him, if a wife stood looking out through the window and worried sick. I knew that I would find out where he came from, no matter what. Just like that, the tracks ended. I looked all around for more, but there was none. Nothing but acres of pristine, unspoiled snow. The only thing near me was an open grave. As I looked at it more closely, I saw dirt that had been thrown up on top of the snow. My eyes went wide with realization. I ran back to the truck, stumbling and nearly hitting my head on a tombstone. I climbed into the back of the truck and found a hole where my passenger should have been. Where is he? I was in full panic mode. I climbed out the back and scanned all around. Each moment I waited for someone to jump out at me and yell, "Gotcha!" And I prayed for that to happen, for this nightmare to end with a prankster smile. But my prayers, they went unanswered. All that surrounded me were graves and snow. The silence, it was unnerving. Even the snow had stopped, as if waiting to see what would happen. I suddenly felt very exposed. I jumped in the cab, rolled up the window, and locked the door. And after taking a moment to slow my breathing, I put the truck in gear and finished my route, trying to think of anything other than the thing that had crawled out of my truck. After my shift, I went home, locked all my doors and windows, and then proceeded to drink heavily. I tried to convince myself it was just a nightmare. I called in sick for a few days, and then my boss called and said I better come back to work if I wanted to have a job. Every time I drove through that cemetery, I saw it. Sometimes my hallucination was so bad that I actually felt the plow hit something. I didn't stop. My doctor prescribed me an antipsychotic, but it didn't seem to help. Some nights I mowed it down 3 or 4 times. I've reached the end. I can't take it anymore. And that's why I wrote this down, to tell my story to whoever wants to know what really happened. In a way, I really hope I am insane. The alternative is too much for me to deal with. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Once again, absolutely incredible stories there from the ferociously fantastic horror writer 1717. Big thank you, Horror, for your amazing support and allowing me to narrate your incredible work on the show. I really will be keeping an eagle eye out for all of your uploads and new content, and can't wait to see what adventures you take us on next. Well, guys and girls, as I mentioned at the start, Horror Writer has some fantastic stories available for purchase, and I'll leave the link to that in the description box below. Show some love and support, and why not treat yourself to a chillin' fireside adventure. Of course, as ever though, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Now, if you're a budding writer or would just like to have a crack at things like myself, then please do get in touch with me at the contact email, which is, as on screen, contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope you all had a fantastic week at work or school, or perhaps you're a long-distance driver or a fellow night shift worker working the skeleton shift. Whatever it is that you do, I hope you're enjoying it and are giving it your all. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.